Hi, my name is Megan McDonough. I'm the Executive Director at Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity, and I'm joined here today with two volunteers from our Family Selection Committee, Marianne and Carol. You guys can wave. And two interpreters who may be interpreting for attendees tonight. Thank you very much for lending us your skills. We are going to record today's information session so that those who cannot make it live will be able to listen to the recording. They'll miss out on some of the Q&A at the end because we will turn off recording for that when people are asking questions that may be more personal. So Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit organization based in Western Massachusetts. And we build homes in Hampshire and Franklin counties for low-income families. They are simple homes, and we use as much volunteer labor and donated materials as possible, but it still costs money to build the homes. So we sell them to our home buyers with a low-cost mortgage. The main topic of today's information session is to explain how to apply to purchase a Habitat home. And we'll start by spending a few minutes describing our current project, but then we'll get into the information on applying. We'll answer any additional questions at the end, but as we go, you're welcome to use the Q&A function to put your questions in so we can answer them later at the end. We actually have two projects we're accepting applications for right now, a 1-bedroom home in Greenfield and a 3-bedroom home in Northampton. The focus of tonight's info session is going to be on the house in Greenfield, but you can find out more about the Northampton home on our website, and the application process itself is largely the same. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Marianne. You'll have to unmute yourself, but
thank you for reminding me. Also, before I begin, Megan, did you see the message from our Swahili interpreter in chat? While you're doing that, I'll begin. So hello, everyone who's here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the home we will be building in Greenfield. It's going to be built by Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity. And it's going to be located on Petty Plain Road in Greenfield. It's a 1-story, 1-bedroom, single-family home on Petty Plain Road in Greenfield, near the Franklin County Fairgrounds. If you know Greenfield at all, that gives you a better idea of where it is. This 1-story home, it will have 1 bedroom and it will be adaptable for someone in a wheelchair or with other mobility impairments that requires 1-floor living. As I said, it will be located in the city of Greenfield, Mass, Franklin County, nearby fairgrounds, hosts an annual fall agricultural fair that attracts about 25,000 visitors each year, as well as other events such as concerts and car shows throughout the year. Franklin County bus service is not frequent, but this location is just a 10-minute walk from the nearest bus stop and a 1 mile away from the John W. Ulver Transit Center, which is a regional hub with both bus and train service. This modest home is going to be approximately 650 square feet. It will be energy efficient and built to Energy Star standards. The home will be all electric and will be heated with an air source heat pump. The outdoor storage is an attached shed that will be provided, and the house will be built on a slab, so there will be no basement storage. And there will also be no attic storage because the attic will be reserved for insulation. The basic appliances will be provided with the home. And the home's going to have its own driveway. and its own yard. So as a homeowner, you will be responsible for lawn care, driveway maintenance, and snow removal. The home will be connected to public water and sewer. The building team at Habitat makes all construction decisions. We don't build custom homes, but we will make reasonable accommodations for someone with a disability. The sale price of the home will not exceed $170,000. The final price, sales price, and mortgage term for the homes will be set to ensure that your monthly housing costs at closing will not exceed 30% of your income at the time you buy the home. The house will be permanently restricted, so you can't sell it for a bunch of money down the road, but you will gain equity. And you will get what you pay, money you've put into it, you would get back. So you will be gaining equity as you're making your mortgage payments. So what does it cost to be a homeowner with Habitat? Well, if you become a homeowner, your monthly housing payments will include the mortgage, principal, and interest, the real estate taxes, and the homeowner's insurance. And those three combined is what the 30% will be based on. The average Habitat monthly payment is between $700 and $1,200 a month. Your mortgage payment will be fixed, but taxes and insurance will go up over time. The monthly payment, it does not include the cost for the water bills, the snow removal, or home repairs, or for sewer. You will have access to sewer, but there will be a charge going with that as well. State housing subsidies cannot typically be used towards a Habitat mortgage. In other words, Section 8 rental vouchers, for example. If you have rental assistance, please talk with the agency providing the voucher to see if they have any programs for using this towards a mortgage payment. Anything, anybody want to add at this point?
No, I think it's right over to you, Carol.
Okay.
All right. So my name is Carol. I'm going to talk to you about the selection criteria. Habitat for Humanity looks at 3 categories when reviewing applicants and making final selection of their partner families: the housing need, income and ability to repay, and the willingness to partner. So I'll be talking about each of these. The housing need. Inadequate housing could mean that your current housing has structural issues, problems with water, electrical, sewer, and/or heating systems, unsafe or unhealthy living conditions, inadequate spaces for the number of members or the sex of the members in the family, or your current housing costs are excessive, more than 35% in relation to your income, or that you can't afford. We also have an asset limit. If you have assets over $75,000, you are not eligible. And you must be a first-time home buyer. The definition we use for this is a lot broader than you may think. Anyone who hasn't owned a home in the last 3 years is considered a first-time home buyer, as they are displaced homemakers. Please ask for clarification after the info session if you are worried about being disqualified because of this requirement. Income and ability to repay. Repayment. You are buying a home from Habitat, so you must show an ability to repay a mortgage. We will also be asking you to apply for a mortgage from a bank partner after being accepted by Habitat into the program, and they will need similar information to show your ability to repay. Ability to repay may be demonstrated in several ways. Do you make more than the minimum income required by a Habitat for a Habitat house? Do you have a history of making payments on time for rent and other obligations? This payment history will be seen on the required documents you will provide to Habitat when you submit your application. We will go over the required documents in a few minutes. These documents and your applications will be reviewed by the Habitat Selection Committee and the bank you get your mortgage from. Habitat sets income guidelines based on HUD, or Housing of Urban Development, median income depending on family size. The minimum income for this project is $30,000 a year, and you can see on the chart. The maximum income varies with family size. For a single person, the maximum is $41,850, and for a two-person household, the maximum is $47,850. Income guidelines are on the flyer in the application packet. Credit reports will be pulled by Habitat for the use and selection process. Credit score is not the only thing taken into consideration when we are reviewing your ability to pay. If you have delinquencies or judgments on your credit report, it's okay. The committee is looking to see that you have worked with your creditors to pay back any judgments, or that you have brought any previous delinquent accounts back to the current status. You can't have any current judgments or liens, but something in the past is okay. In general, you must wait 2 years after bankruptcy and show good credit in the time since bankruptcy was discharged. This can be waived if the bankruptcy was caused by an extraordinary circumstance, something like a death or a natural disaster. We are also looking to make sure you don't have so many debts that it would affect your ability to repay the mortgage. If you are unsure about your credit, considering a HUD-approved housing counselor, we have the Valley CDC, Wayfinders, or Franklin County HRA. This counseling is free and very helpful. A criminal background check and sex offender registry check will also be done. Having a criminal record does not automatically disqualify you from your selection. However, Habitat reserves the right to disqualify someone for a relevant offense. If selected, you will be expected to make a down payment of $1,000, which will be paid to Habitat in 10 monthly installments of $100. The first installment would be due the month after you have agreed to partner with Habitat, or when construction begins, whichever is later. In addition to the $1,000 down payment, you will need to save up during construction to pay for your first year of homeowners insurance before we sell you the house. This cost will vary depending on what you select for insurance, but could be anywhere from $600 to $1,000. So you plan to keep saving $100 a month after your down payment is complete. You may also choose to spend some money for appliances or other specified allowed upgrades of the home. Habitat pays reasonable closing costs for your mortgage. Next, we're talking about the willingness to partner. If you're selected, you and your family become a partner with Habitat in building your home and will be asked to complete 250 hours of sweat equity. What is sweat equity? Each home buyer must complete 250 hours of sweat equity, up to a maximum of 500 hours per family. A vast majority of sweat equity is actually you building your own home with volunteers and contractors. If you are selected to partner with Habitat, you should expect you will spend 1 to 2 days every week until your home is completed. Work days are typically 9 to 4 or 12 to 4 on a Sunday. You need to average about 5 hours per week to complete your 250 hours before the building is done. There will be some weeks When on-site construction work is not available because some subcontractors are on site, also there's some weather events. The subcontractors might be the electrician or the plumber. And if you're disabled, we work with you to modify sweat equity requirements to match your abilities. Future homeowners must complete 16 hours of the volunteer work with Habitat. This counts towards your sweat equity, and this must be done the first 2 months of being selected. These 16 hours could be working on your future home or other Habitat projects. The first-time home buyer class must be completed, and these hours also count towards your sweat equity. Once you agree to partner with Habitat, you will be assigned a mentor that will work with you to plan your sweat equity hours and prep your home. You will also work with the mentor to select certain fixtures in the home as well as any upgrades. The mentor will be your main point of contact for the 9 to 18 months it takes to build your home and the first full year after you own the home. If selected, you will need to complete an agreement that you are willing to partner with Habitat by completing these requirements.
Thank you, Carol. I'm going to talk a little bit now about the application itself. The application and all the required documents must be received by Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity by April 3rd, 2024. And oh, you guys didn't need to see my filing system. Sorry about that. I'm going to open up a copy of the application so I can go through it with you directly. And we can talk about the different parts in the application packet. We have the application packet available in both English and in Spanish. Are you guys all seeing the application packet now? Great. So Habitat for Humanity put together this application packet. You can get it a PDF on our website, or you can pick up a paper copy, and it'll the black and white paper copy or this nice colorful copy. This flyer gives you some general information about the project. And then there is a 2-page letter that goes through the different steps in the application process, which is a good way to refresh your memory after this information session about how the process goes when you're buying a Habitat for Humanity home. After that is when the actual application form itself begins. At the top of the application form, you will see instructions, a reminder about the deadline, and where you can return the application when it's completed. Also, because we have 2 homes that we're taking applications for right now, you'll see at the top of the application a note that you're applying for the Greenfield house or the Northampton house. Even though the application form is exactly the same, this just tells us which house you're interested in. You want to complete the application as fully as possible, and of course with truth and accuracy. So the first thing you need to do is to check a box saying that you're applying for individual credit, joint credit, or and you can put your initials here. So what's individual versus joint credit? If you are the only head of household in your house, maybe you're the only adult, then it might just be one applicant. If it's maybe you and a partner, then you might have a co-applicant who's applying with you to be a purchaser of the future home. Throughout the application, there'll be questions for the applicant and the co-applicant. If you're a single person and there is no co-applicant who you will be buying the home and taking ownership of it with you, then you can just write not applicable or NA so that we know there is no co-applicant. We ask for information like your social security number, and that is required so we can run a credit report. Your contact information so we can get back to you with any questions about your application. If you have any dependents, if you're married or separated. For the Greenfield house, because it's just 1 bedroom, we wouldn't expect to see dependents listed here, but for anyone, when we're doing 2 and 3 bedroom homes, this becomes a more important section. Your present address is where you live right now and where we can send you mail about if there's any questions about your application. And then if you've lived there less than 2 years, we also want to know your most recent address before that. And then there's a little section for the office that you don't have to worry about. Section 1B of the application asks about military service. If you haven't served before, it's a quick no checkbox, or you can say yes and tell us a little something about your service. Section 2, willingness to partner. That's part of the question about sweat equity that Carol discussed and spending 250 hours on the construction of your home. So the applicant, and if there's a co-applicant, need to answer the question, yes or no, are you willing to participate in the sweat equity? And we will make accommodations for anyone with a disability. So don't hesitate to say yes, even if you know you need to ask for accommodations. We also then in section 3 ask about where you're living now, your present housing conditions. So this is to get a little bit at our requirement of having a housing need. So tell us a little bit about where you're living currently. We ask for information about your current landlord, but we're not going to surprise them by sending out a letter or anything. We would never contact them without your permission. Section 4 asks if you own any property already. If you don't own any real estate, just check the box and move on to the next section. If you do own any property, land, a house somewhere, then tell us about what it is. Section 5 asks for employment information. And if your income doesn't come from employment, then you can just check the box that says does not apply. Maybe the applicant doesn't work, but the co-applicant does, or vice versa. We want to know where you work, what the address of the employer is, what your annual wages are. Gross means the wages before taxes come out. How to contact the business, just some base, and if you've been at this job for less than a year, to tell us a little bit about your most recent previous employer as well. If you're self-employed, please check this box, and so that we can learn a little bit more about your self-employment income. And then this chart in section 6 asks about income from all sources. So there's a row for salary and wages, which would match. This is asking about monthly income. And back in this last section, we were asking about your annual wages. So same information, different time period. You would want to tell us the wages for the applicant, the co-applicant, or others in the household. Sometimes there is someone like an adult child or someone who is not going to be an applicant who wants to share in ownership of the house, but is another adult with income who will be living with you. People have other sources of income like TANF, alimony, child support, Social Security, SSI. This is where you list all these different types of income so that we know what all your different sources of income are for the household as a whole. We then want to connect the income source with a name. So sometimes if there's multiple individuals in a household, that's less likely for this 1 bedroom application, but if you can tell us here, that will let us know, are you saying that your teenager has a job and that's the other income listed, or is it something from who it is that the income is from? Again, less likely for this 1-bedroom application, but we do a standard application form for all our houses. Section 7, your source of down payment and closing costs. As we said earlier, there's a $1,000 down payment required, which can be paid in monthly installments. We also require you to purchase your homeowner's insurance, but Pioneer Valley Habitat actually pays the other types of closing costs that are required, lawyers' fees and things like that, reasonable closing costs when you buy your home. Section 8 asks about assets. Assets are things that you own, like cars or real estate, but also things like bank accounts or investment accounts. So if you have a checking account, savings account, a retirement account, those are all different types of assets. And you want to list those here and also tell us what their value is. And it says do not include land here because there was that previous section where we asked about your property. But all other assets should be listed here. Section 9 is about how liabilities and expenses. These are your obligations to pay other people. So we had in the income section, it says child support and it says child support here. The difference is in the income section, we're asking about child support you receive. And here in liabilities and expenses, we're asking about child support you might pay to someone else not in your household. Other things like student loan debt, medical debt, if you have leases, you want to list those expenses for the applicant and the co-applicant. And it's asking about the monthly payment for those. The next section is asking about other expenses, things like your electricity, water, and gas bill. This gives us a sense of what you are used to paying every month to run your household, and is a moment for you to reflect on your total household budget. Section 10 of the application is called declarations. And that just is a way of saying there are a bunch of questions you have to answer yes or no to. They aren't immediately disqualifying questions. Sometimes it just means that then we'll have follow-up questions if you answer yes or no, depending on your yes or no answer. So it's important to answer these truthfully for both the applicant and the co-applicant. And this is a required part of the application. If you answered yes to any of the questions A through G, or no to question H, you can give us a little bit of an explanation on a separate piece of paper, can be helpful for context. Section 11 asks for your authorization and agreement for us to review this application and to look at your documents. And so it's important that both the applicant and if there is a co-applicant sign it. And you can read through this. Section 12, again, you just simply sign or write your name. This is just to acknowledge that you understand that you have this right to receive a copy of an appraisal if we do one. Section 13 asks you about demographic information. You're not required to fill this out, but it is helpful to us. It's not a part of evaluating your eligibility, but it's part of when we evaluate our program as a whole and we ask questions, are we reaching people of different demographics? It helps us to know who applies to our homes. And then this section is only if someone was helping you fill out the application. Section 4 is about if you are unmarried but are in a domestic partnership or other partnership with someone that would provide similar legal rights. We ask you to explain that to us. And that, oh, and then there's one more page where you need to sign and that, yeah, you've read through this notice here about the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. It gives information about where to file a complaint if you think that there was an act of discrimination by Habitat. This next section, attachment A, is really important. In addition to the application, we need supporting documents to help us evaluate your eligibility. And we've structured this so that you can answer the questions here and check off the boxes. And then you can check over here when you've made your copies. So first go through and say, okay, did I file taxes? Yes. All right, I'm going to check this box. No, and then maybe tell us why you didn't file taxes. And then you could check over here to say, all right, I made my copies. It's in the pile that I'm gonna just submit with my application. So your tax returns, your paychecks, if you work a regular W-2 job, if you work in the gig economy or self-employed, we need your 1099s. If you have adults with no income in your household, we need a certification of no income form. If you receive child support or alimony, we need the documents that relate to that. If you receive Social Security or disability payments, we need your current award letter so we know how much you're receiving. If you have some other household source of income, this is the time to let us know and attach some documentation. We'd also like the 3 most recent statements for all your checking and savings accounts. And if you have any retirement or investment accounts, we will need statements for those as well. If you have other assets, significant assets, things that are worth more than $1,000, like cars, collectibles, land, cash not in a bank account, we would like you to disclose that here as well. The next section in the application packet you get has information about where to submit your application, the income guidelines, and a little bit about the house and where we're building it, and some of our program rules and requirements. So I'm going to go back now to our presentation. And someone had asked in the Q&A if you can apply for both houses, and the answer is yes, you absolutely can apply to both. As we continue talking, feel free to put questions in the Q&A for us to answer. One sec. Well, that's the application. That's not what you wanted. Okay. I'm just going to go so I can forward the slides. Okay. The application process. Once your application has been received, the Family Selection Committee reviews the application to see if it's complete and review your credit history. After the initial review, applicants that do not meet the Habitat selection criteria will receive a letter explaining why they have not been selected. Those that do meet the Habitat selection criteria will also receive a letter requesting additional information if necessary. It is very important to respond promptly to requests for additional information. Failure to meet deadlines for information can disqualify you. After the applications are reviewed, we will, and any additional information is gathered, we schedule virtual home visits with applicants. These are a chance for you to ask questions and to have a one-on-one conversation with some members of the family selection committee. Since the pandemic, we've been doing these home visits as a virtual visit on Zoom. If you are uncomfortable with that, you can request an in-person visit instead. 2 members of the selection committee will make an appointment with you to meet with you and your family. The meetings are typically about an hour. We may have some additional questions for you about your income or expenses. And all members of the family who will live in the home, if you are selected, should be at the meeting. It's a great time for you to ask questions in a smaller group before the lottery. And what is the lottery? Well, after all the home visits are completed, the selection committee confirms which applicants have been determined eligible according to all the selection criteria. The selection committee then sends its recommended list of all eligible applicants to the Habitat Board of Directors for approval. The Habitat Board of Directors confirms who will be in the lottery, and a lottery is conducted. Once the lottery results are in, the Habitat Executive Director, will contact the family to ask if they would like to partner with Habitat. And if they say yes, we have our partner family and the real work begins. And I think I'm going to let Mary Ann talk about how to submit your documents, and then we'll get to the Q&A.
Okay, so Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity would like to do our best to make it easy to safely and securely submit your application documents. We don't have regular office hours, but there's lots of options, as you can see posted on the screen. One, you can mail your paper application with copies of the required documents. As long as your application, and I emphasize that, as long as the application is postmarked by the April 3rd deadline, it will be accepted, but it must be postmarked no later than April 3rd. You can, and the address, Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity, Post Office Box 60642, Florence, Massachusetts 01062. You can also drop off your paper application with the copies of the required documents and put it in our locked mailbox at 140 Pine Street, Florence, Mass. 01062. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of mailing or too close to that deadline, just bring it by and put it in the locked mailbox and look for the box that's labeled Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity. It's on the middle floor near our office. There's a short set of stairs to access this box. You can also submit digitally. And a link to the DocuSign online application can be found at www.pvhabitat.org/apply. And this is a secure, it's an HTTPS site, so it's secure. And we also have an option for you to upload files using Leap File through an encrypted page. Last year, we used Virtue for encrypted emails, but this year we're using Leap File instead, as you can see there. Please do not do not email account numbers, Social Security numbers, or other personal information. Do it only through this encrypted digital site. And again, to be considered, you must submit your application on or before April 3rd. Now, this is important. Even if you don't have all your documents completed, mail in the application and then continue to organize your documents. The application itself must be in by April 3rd, 2024. The incomplete the incomplete application will be accepted without all the documents, but then work to get the documents in as quickly as possible. But don't hold the application because you don't have all the documents, because if the application isn't there by April 3rd, it will not be accepted. So try and complete an application as soon as possible to assist in a timely review process. If your application is incomplete, you will receive a follow-up notification requesting the missing information with a deadline for sending the remaining items. It typically takes 2 to 3 months for the selection process to be completed after the application deadline. So get the application in no later than April 3rd, and then you'll have to wait for a while before you hear more. But you will absolutely hear from Pioneer Valley Habitat, whether you've accepted for the lottery or not. No one's going to leave you hanging, wondering whatever happened. Okay. So if you have questions, call or email Megan. If you don't apply, you won't get selected. So here's our phone number, 413-517-8326. And the email is apply@pioneervalley.org. So I think at this point, we're going to stop recording this session and open it up for questions.
Thank you, everybody.